We're going to be comparing and contrasting 90s superbike icons with the modern motorcycles of today. There's no denying that motorcycles today make an ungodly amount of power and have finely tuned chassis with the most premium braking and suspension components. But does the governance of electronic rider aids, control systems, and fly-by-wire throttles leave modern superbike experience a little less impactful than their analog ancestors? We're going to find all that out today and more, so sit back and relax. This is going to be a good one. Today's video is supported by our friends at Rockform. I'm going to tell you more about them later in the show. Let's get started. The first motorcycle we must discuss today is the Honda CBR1000RR, the venerable superbike introduced back in 1992. This bike was not only the first large displacement motorcycle from Honda to bear the RR name, but also the first bike to be known as the Fireblade, a moniker which is still used in Honda's flagship motorcycle today. The CBR1000RR used an 893cc inline 4-cylinder engine, which was based on the engine used in the CBR750RR research stage model. By lengthening the stroke of the 750cc engine, they were able to maximize power while keeping the machine remarkably svelte for the time. The CBR900RR had a wet weight of just 453 pounds, making it only 4 pounds heavier than the CBR600 it was designed to outperform. By comparison, the next lightest motorcycle that was larger than 750cc's was the Yamaha FZR1000, which was a whopping 67 pounds heavier than the Honda. 453 pounds is still pretty light by modern standards, and that makes the Blade an absolute classic. The original Blade set a serious precedent for 90s era superbikes by making leader bike power in a lightweight chassis that handled more similarly to a 600 class bike. This bike was able to produce 121 horsepower, which might seem inconsequential in comparison to modern bikes, but 121 horsepower with cable throttle, no ABS, and no traction control is a completely different beast. By comparison, the Fireblade made more power than a GPZ 900 Ninja from Kawasaki and weighed 90 pounds less than the first ZX-10 that came out afterward. Can we get 90s Honda back? Seriously. Ugh, I miss it. The CBR900RR was a force to be reckoned with for the duration of its tenure, with production ending in 2004. It is a super awesome motorcycle that's a testament to the glory days where Honda was producing industry-changing motorcycles that rivaled bikes from all of the big four and even Ducati. Honda's continued the Fireblade legacy through today, with the CBR1000RR-R SP Fireblade reigning as Honda's flagship race-inspired superbike. The current Fireblade uses a 999cc 4-cylinder engine with bore and stroke that mirrors that of Honda's RC213V race bike used in MotoGP, even though the street bike's an inline 4 and the GP bike is a V4. The engine's good for power to the tune of 214 horsepower, nearly 100 more than that of the original Fireblade from '92. Though it must be stated, the full 214 horsepower is only available on the factory from European models, with the rest being restricted to a measly 186, though the full potential can be unlocked via an ECU tune. We actually had a Fireblade SP back in the day as a giveaway bike, and we flashed it, and holy moly, it was fast. Making 84 foot-pounds of torque, Honda has made a variety of calculated decisions to improve mid-range power, such as especially shaped intake ports and airbox that help change speed velocity and result in an increase in acceleration. The engine lives in an aluminum twin-spar frame that's finely tuned for torsional and vertical rigidity for improved handling. For added track riding prowess, the Fireblade also used a longer swing arm for better traction and aerodynamic winglets for added downforce, and to be homologated for the World Superbike Series, even though it's not doing so great there, but that's beyond the point. The Fireblade is a serious fire-breathing machine and has the highest spec features to match, such as electronically controlled fully adjustable Öhlins fork up front, Brembo stylema calipers, and a comprehensive suite of motorcycle electronics that include ABS, a quick shifter, selectable torque curves, engine braking levels, and wheelie control. This is the kind of stuff that the original Blade could only dream of. The CBR1000RR-R SP Fireblade has managed to elevate the original Fireblade's capability nearly 10 times over, while retaining the original spirit of the machine, making 214 horsepower, weighing 455 pounds, and utilizing countless pieces of MotoGP-derived engineering and tech. The Fireblade is one of the most exciting superbikes on the market. But one thing to consider is that those old 90s machines, they were a little bit softer, a little bit more able to be ridden down the road, and best of all, they weren't laden with all the emissions restrictions that modern bikes have. So they had that classic 90s bike stink of gasoline and exhaust. They were a little bit more softer and comfortable and all-day usable. The original blade is known as a gem for that reason, and top-shelf leader bikes nowadays, well, they're just really compromised race machines with first gear ending at 94 miles an hour or something like that. So, I don't know. I still think about the 90s bikes. All right, so in 1987, Yamaha released the FZR1000. Yamaha would delete this machine in 1995 following the dominating success of Honda's CBR Fireblade. But before that would happen, the FZR1000 would achieve many accolades in its short production run, including the title of World's Fastest Production Bike. It would even ultimately be named Cycle World's Bike of the Decade. The FZR1000 was designed using similar ideas and technologies as the FZ750 that came before it. A notable feature was the use of the Delta Box frame design. The Delta Box resulted in a significant weight savings by using a large square aluminum perimeter box. This frame design would weigh about 40% less than a traditional steel frame, and Yamaha had been familiar using this frame style on small displacement racing machines, but the FZR1000 would be the first large displacement motorcycle from Yamaha to be built with a Delta Box frame for large-scale production. Aluminum perimeter frames are commonplace in today's sport bikes, but in the mid-80s, this was cutting edge. The engine in the FZR1000 was also derived from an FZ750 using the 5-valve per cylinder design, with displacement increased to 989 cc's, which would then be upgraded to 1002 cc's after a full engine redesign in 1989. This redesign also led to improvements in the chassis, leaving the FZR1000 to be shorter, stiffer, and lighter. This bike wasn't able to compete in traditional racing due to the 750cc displacement limit of the time, but it was popular in open class racing. The Yamaha FZR1000 was an important building block on which they would ultimately rate the ephemeral YZF-R1. The R1 was first sold in 1998 following the parts bin special YZF-1000R Thunder Race that acted as a placeholder for a few years following the discontinuation of the FZR. The YZF-R1 would be Yamaha's flagship leader bike for the next 25 years. One of the standout features of the R1 in comparison to other Japanese leader bikes is the use of his cross-plane engine design, which has been used on the platform since 2009. This unique engine layout using a 270-degree firing order that mirrors a V4 engine, it reduces inertial torque, improving power across the rev range, as well as providing one of the best inline-4 engine soundtracks known to man. I'm a big fan. Current generation YZF-R1 makes 198 horsepower and 83 foot-pounds of torque and weighs 448 pounds. The cross-plane engine design is not only the element found in the R1 that's been distilled out from GP racing. It also uses a highly advanced 6-axis IMU to control and modulate a suite of electronic systems. This IMU takes 125 readings a second to indicate the motorcycle speed and orientation across 6 axes. These readings are used to calculate the various rider assist features like lean-sensitive TC, slide control, and more. The R1's been incredibly successful in motorcycle racing, having won the 2009 and 2021 World Superbike Championship titles, where it got second and third place in 2008. It won the British Superbike title in 2011 and 2015, and it has won and competed in various other races like the Macau Grand Prix, FIM Superstock 1000 Cup, and the Suzuka 8-hour endurance event. It's a very popular platform for club racing as well. Not only does the R1 have a rich history of racing accomplishments, including the last 3 Moto America Superbike Championships, a unique and intoxicating engine design, and advanced technology and electronics, it's also been considered one of the best bang-for-buck leader bikes around, costing just $18,400 for the 2024 model year. But man, it's crazy to think about the improvements that have been made for that bike over the last 25 years and just what the 90s bikes were like. The 90s may have birthed some of the most industry-changing motorcycles of our time, but you know what they didn't have? Rockform phone cases. You didn't need a Rockform case on your brick cell phone the size of a loaf of bread, but now with those high-tech pocket-sized supercomputers, you gotta keep them safe down the road. Rockform makes the best cell phone cases and mounts for motorcyclists hands down. They've got cases for every phone and mounts for every style of bike so you can get set up and ready to ride. Having access to your phone is pivotal for navigation on long trips and traffic during rush hour, and Rockform's MagSafe drop-tested phones integrate seamlessly with the mounting system to keep your phone in view while on the road. They've got vibration dampers, car mounts, belt clips, you name it. Rockform's the best solution for smartphone cases and mounting hardware for motorcyclists. I use it on my bike bike, and it's really that simple. If you use the code YN25 at rockform.com, you're going to receive 25% off your order. Again, go to rockform.com, use the code YN25 for 25% off. Thanks again for Rockform for the support. Now let's get back to the show. When talking about classic, innovative, and dare I say, provocative motorcycles, there's likely one motorcycle that jumps to most riders' minds, the Ducati 916. The Ducati 916 technically had just a 4-year production run, but it created so many new expectations for a modern superbike. It was seemingly unbeatable on the racetrack. It made a great spread of power, and it just looked so damn good. The 916 used a liquid-cooled 916cc 90-degree V-twin that had been revised from its predecessor, the 888. The 916 was an exercise in both form and function. It used a chromoly trellis frame, utilized a single-sided swing arm, and had an underseat exhaust. Its engine didn't make as much outright power as a Japanese sport bike, but it had much more ample spread of torque across the rev range. The 916 made just 114 horsepower and 67 foot-pounds of torque, which truthfully are like 600cc bike numbers nowadays. But it won 4 World Superbike Championships in 94, 95, 96, and 98. The 916 would be replaced by the 996 and the 998, which utilized much of the same look and design of the original Superbike, but saw engine revisions for increased power. The Ducati 916 has won countless races, as even featured in art museums due to its design characteristics and aesthetic allure. Motorcycle writer Mick Walker described the 916 best, saying, "To many enthusiasts around the world, the 916 was not simply the latest superbike, but the best there had ever been. It set new standards for performance, handling, and braking, but also style and charisma." Today, Ducati is as invested in racing as they've ever been, and that dedication has continued in their advancement of the Italian superbike. The 916, 996, and 998 series have won 120 World Superbike races, and the Panigale is in second place for Ducati, achieving 87 first-place wins. Seriously, did you see the run of form Bautista had the last 2 years? It's insane. The Panigale V4 has been in production since 2018 and was Ducati's first large-scale production V4 motorcycle. The Panigale began with the 2015 MotoGP racing engine, where they would combine its athletic characteristics with a fun, usable, and reliable roadworthy machine. The Panigale V4 and V4S are both rated for 210 horsepower and 91 foot-pounds of torque, the latter S coming equipped with electronic suspension. Ducati says that the current Panigale V4 is the most advanced superbike they've ever developed, offering incredible speed and performance on track and a more intuitive and rewarding riding experience for street riders. The bike is incredibly spicy, like any Ducati sport bike should be, but it's also laden with tech features in traction control, wheelie control, ABS, engine control, and the like. The Panigale V4 is a completely modern iteration of the Ducati superbike, making incredible power, winning countless races, and winning the hearts of Ducatistas everywhere. But I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's a V4. It's missing that characteristic Ducati lumpy charm of the old twins. It doesn't have a steel trellis frame. And to that I say that is the price of progress, my friends. The Panigale V4R, for example, the homologated version that they use in World Superbike that I had a chance to own and ride as a giveaway bike for a very short amount of time, was simply unmatched on track. The blend of tech, rider feel, and confidence it gave me just allowed for ridiculous lap times with not much effort, and that's the whole point of owning a top-shelf Ducati. Ripping off lap times with zero effort. But I still look back to the Ducati 916 and think, oof, that is a classic, beautiful machine. Nothing quite like an old school Ducati, huh? The Suzuki GSX-R 750 is a motorcycle that's been in production since 1984 all the way through present day. That makes it pretty unique on today's video. It was originally conceived as an air and oil cooled machine, a decision that was originally made as a weight savings measure. After 12 years in production, the GSX-R 750 saw a massive overhaul that elevated the bike to the ranks of one of the greatest sport bikes in history. And it has a cult following, so much so that Neevesy over at MCN bought one and always sings its praises. Kind of is just a perfect blend of everything, isn't it? A legacy so strong that Suzuki is left today as the only manufacturer selling a 750 class 4-cylinder sport bike decades after any such class had any relevancy. The new GSX-R 750, unrivaled in 1996, utilized a twin-spar frame from Suzuki's RGV 500 GP race bike. As a side note, can we just get a photo of that Pepsi livery Suzuki from the 90s that Kevin Schwantz rode. It was like the greatest GP bike ever. The newly introduced liquid-cooled engine was also revamped for 96, making it smaller and more compact, while also using magnesium covers to further save weight. With all these improvements, the GSX-R 750 was weighing at just 453 pounds and was able to produce 128 horsepower. Those are really good numbers, even by today's standards. This meant the Gixxer was beating out the closest competition by 44 pounds and 9 horsepower. Power was only further increased in 1998 when fuel injection was introduced to the model. The GSX-R 750 has remained a favorite amongst track day junkies and Gixxer squids alike, striking a perfect balance between the stature and maneuverability of a 600 with the added power and torque similar to a leader bike. Will Suzuki continue to produce the GSX-R 750 until the end of time, leaving it as the sole 4-cylinder sport bike remaining in production? I guess time will tell. Hot off the heels of the GSX-R 750, Suzuki released the GSX-R 1000 in 2001. Ooh baby, Gixxer Thou. The Gixxer Thou replaced the larger GSX-R 1100 and instead opted to build upon the lightweight 750 frame and chassis. When it first came out on the scene in 2001, the GSX-R 1000 actually managed to outperform the R1, which was previously the top dog in the first few years of its production. The Gixxer Thou is still in production today, although it has interestingly found its way to the back of the pack in terms of leader bike performance, a stark contrast to the industry-leading capability of this bike upon its debut. And in fact, the GSX-R 1000 doesn't really have a very strong presence in any world-level stage racing apart from endurance. This bike is not necessarily down on power, making 199 ponies and 87 foot-pounds of torque, but it is otherwise outdated in most ways compared to its competitors. Sure, it's got a quick shifter, fully adjustable Showa suspension, but when so many other manufacturers are packing so much value into their bikes with new tech and premium features, the GSX-R 1000 is left feeling a little bit like a bargain bin superbike. For instance, the Gixxer is still using mechanical variable valve timing, while most modern superbikes use computers to control such engine features. That's not to say a machine of a certain simplicity can't be a track day weapon in the hands of a master. Zach and Ari from Revzilla famously beat the lap times of a Panigale on the racetrack aboard a Gixxer 1000 from like 2005 or whatever. The K5 Gixxer, come on, classic. When Suzuki dropped the GSX-R 750 in 1996 and then the GSX-R 1000 in 2001, they were forces to be reckoned with. And now, with both models still in production and minimally changed in the last decade, we can all see Suzuki is a bit stuck in the past. It's hard to tell if Suzuki's refusal to update is due to R&D costs or emissions restrictions, or an intrinsic desire to hold on to machines from their glory days. So what do you guys think? Were motorcycles better in the 90s, an era ripe for novelty and innovation? Or is the added power and intuitive tech found on new bikes worth it when paired with the restrictions in place to meet modern emissions regulations? Thanks so much for watching until the end. Thank you for Rockform for the support as always, and I will catch you guys later. Fact: only 4 countries in the world have national anthems with no lyrics. Goodbye. Keep watching, Gabby! No!